want to talk a little bit more about the six-figure job that I quit, kind of what I did there, how I was paid, the commission structure and everything. Also, I'm gonna have way more proof in this video. The first two videos I posted where I quit didn't really talk about it too much. And then the video of me going from Taco Bell to this six-figure job was more about the journey. I didn't really talk about the six-figure job because I wanted the story just to be about how I went from Taco Bell to the six-figure job. But a lot of people have been asking me for the right reasons. They think that maybe a lot of people don't know too much about sales, but sales is extremely lucrative depending on what market you're in. Specifically, I was in SaaS, which is software as a service. Think of like Gmail, Slack, PayPal, Venmo. They're all SaaS. They're all software as a service. Essentially, there's a problem in the world and their job as a software is to fix that problem. Specifically, the area that I got a job in was business to business. So our business was selling to other dental offices. Our software that we sold helped dental offices in a lot of ways. It's going to be too much to go over, but these are pretty much the main things. So first off, dentists learn how to work on teeth for the 5 to 10 years that they go to school. They don't learn about the business part. One thing that I learned about being in this industry is that a lot of the dentists are the business owners. So whether it's like a small mom and pop family dental office, or it's a dental office that has multiple specialties, usually they split the ownership between however many dentists there are there. They don't learn any of the business side, and the business side is huge and it's very confusing on purpose. HIPAA is essentially making sure that dentists are doing the right thing with your customer information, your patient information, making sure that only the people that need it have it. So they're making sure that none of your information gets leaked. OSHA is more about safety in the dental environment, and it's giga confusing. And a lot of dental offices will have super old binders. We essentially turned this into an online binder and we would update that for them. Essentially, we sold an online binder that ensured that they stay completely compliant, which is extremely and giga confusing because, like I said, these policies are updated all the time and no one's notified. This is huge because fines can run up to $50,000 per fine. And it's essentially just insurance for the dental office. Another big one was no-shows. So if you're telling the dental office that you signed up for a big procedure and maybe that procedure takes 2 to 3 hours, they blocked off that time. So if you don't show up, that whole 2 to 3 hours, they're just twiddling their thumbs because they don't really work with walk-ins, right? So essentially our software would help remind people automatically without the office manager or the front admin team having to message these people, meaning that it would reduce the amount of no-shows. Our tool also provided ways for dental offices to fill up their schedule, put a wait list, things like that. It was all automated. The last thing would be statements. Essentially, the way it works is that a lot of dental offices still send out these paper statements to collect the money that they're owed. And it's a very different industry because you can't go into Best Buy, go in, get a TV and say, hey, I'll pay you back whenever. But that's exactly how these dental offices work because of insurance. When insurance comes back, these dental offices have to reach out to the patient and essentially say, hey, you owe us more money because insurance didn't cover everything. The thing is that the patient already got the work done, so it's extremely hard to recover that revenue even though they've already essentially given you the TV. That's what our software did. We just tried to simplify the business side of dental offices for the actual doctors. Of course, there's way more things that the software did. I'm just going over like the main things, and it's extremely valuable to the dental offices because whatever we charge monthly, all they would need to do is get maybe one person that no-showed to show up or get an extra payment collected because a lot of dental offices have super high AR. AR is essentially accounts receivable, meaning that this group of people, these group of patients owe you money. This job was salary and commission based. My salary was $60,000 per year. You're saying, hey, that's not a six-figure job. 60K is not 100K. Well, it's because the commission comes in, right? So every time we would sell the software, we would get a cut, usually about 30% of whatever total price is for, let's say our software was $300 per month and it wasn't. I'm just throwing out a random number. You would do $300 times 12, which is a year, which is $3,600. We would get about 30% of that. 30% of that is $1,200. So if we sold this to the dental office, we would get $1,200. The quota for a tenured employee there was 12, I believe. So if you hit the quota of 12 times $1,200 each per sale, that's $14,400 on top of the salary, which is another $5,000, which already gets you to like $20,000. I think you can very easily see how this can go from the 60K to over 100K. We also sold terminals. The thing with a lot of the terminals that you see nowadays, they give you a terminal and they'll charge you a fee. That's how everyone gets their reward points from credit cards, is because the dental office that you're paying the credit card with at is paying those fees for you. They're sending you on your trip to Hawaii. You have a $1,000 procedure. The dental office has to pay anywhere from 2 to 7%. I've seen higher effective rates, which is essentially what these banks, credit cards, and everyone charges you. So let's say it's 3%. If you have a $1,000 procedure, that dental office is only getting $970. Most of the terminals that are provided to these dental offices, all they do is take a percentage of their essentially revenue that they're making. But ours, we would provide the terminal and then provide all of these different ways to collect the payments. So we would have options like, oh, you can store your card on file. If you don't want to do that, we can send you a text message to pay for the balance. We also have a payment link online. All of these ways are just more convenient for people nowadays in our generation to make that payment. You can see how statements are super inefficient, right? It takes maybe a week for it to get to you. Then it takes another week for you to even check the mail. And then you have to hope that the dental office is open when you get off of work, because if they're not open, then it's just going to go in a pile of bills that you're not going to pay or you may forget. Because of this, a lot of dental offices will have high AR. This is opposed to what we offered, which is sending out a link. You can pay whatever your balance was, or you can agree to store your card on file. This is just things that we provided. It would help the dental office collect more of their money. The thing is too, the percentage that we charge per transaction was typically a lot lower than a lot of other terminals. So pretty much at the job, we would go into the office. The first hour, essentially you're pretty much setting up your day, figuring out what meetings you had. There's people that would be cold calling, because when you're new like me, they'll kind of pick and choose who gets the demos, right? The demos is essentially a setup meeting by someone else. Keep in mind that everything was tracked, right? So your conversion rate, so if you have 10 demos and you only sold to 2 people, your percentage would be 20%. So people that have a higher conversion rate would get more of these demos. So technically wasn't my job to set up these demos, but because we were so new and we kind of had to prove ourselves, especially because I got hired on a whim, the first hour for me was usually just checking out my day, and then I would cold call a bunch of offices. That was probably the worst part. If I was just doing the demos, the 2 to 3 to 4 meetings maybe per day, it would have been a lot better, but I get it. You know, it's a business, they have to make money. So we'd usually have anywhere from 1 to 3 meetings per day. It typically was about an hour. We also had a 30-minute lunch, but essentially the whole day was cold calling, couple meetings, lunch, and then demos. And then following up with people, answering questions, emails, if they have any questions about the products, sending out quotes. Also, it's funny because people are asking me to help them get a job there. First of all, I'm not going to tell you where I worked because I just don't want to. Second of all, I have zero pull there. I got hired on a whim and I quit within 5 months. Do you really think that they're gonna take a recommendation from me? I can tell you though, 2 competitors that essentially did the same thing that we did. One is Dental Intelligence, the other one is Vine Dental. You can probably figure out where I worked if you look hard enough, but they essentially sold the same thing as us. They were pretty much our direct competitor in a lot of ways. Now I'm just gonna show a little bit of proof here. I believe I got the job offer on like the 23rd or 24th. I texted my manager at the cell phone company because I just wanted to hear his opinion and wanted to see what he thought. So I did that on the 24th. He pretty much just told me, yeah, go for it. You're pretty much doubling your income. It sounds good. And he pretty much just told me to leave the resignation letter on his desk, which is what I did. This next screenshot I'll show you, he essentially sent me the website. He told me a book to read. I read the book and I also applied to that job maybe 30 minutes after I ended up talking to my cell phone manager. I applied, and then that same night, in the original story I told you that I talked to my auntie, I have screenshots of me asking my auntie about this company. She works in a similar field, not dental, but another healthcare space. Essentially the training starts at the beginning of the month, so that's what I did. I quit the cell phone job on the 6th, that was my last day there, and then I started at the SaaS company the next day, which is the 7th. The first week there, they're pretty much just setting you up, telling you everything about the company, all the benefits, you know, holidays, how all of that works, the pay. The second week, they flew us out to New York for 5 days. I think it was like Monday through Friday. And we were doing IRL training. So we were in this pretty much conference room. I think there's 8 or 9 of us. And we just did IRL training. Also in New York, it was amazing because they gave us a $100 stipulation on food. So I was eating ribeyes every single night. They took us out to dinner. I think the bill was like over $1,000. Keep in mind, I'm coming from Taco Bell, so having ribeye every night was insane. And I also have more proof because in a video, I actually lost my wallet as soon as I got to the airport in New York. All right, so we made it to New York. Got a pretty dope view. I left my wallet on the airplane.
and I'm kind of freaking out.
And I have text messages with my manager saying that I lost my wallet from the date that I was in New York. So they had a big projector and would go over just slideshows about essentially what we sold, the problems in the dental field, and how we solved them. The third and fourth week, we were doing a little bit of training. However, we were also starting to get on the phone. So we were starting to cold call people, trying to set up our own appointments. Essentially the first month, there was no quotas for the new hires. So I think I had maybe 10 to 15 different demos with dental offices that either I set up or got set up for me. And I think I sold one the first month. So my conversion rate was like less than 10%. It was probably like 5 or 6%, which is really low, but it's also, keep in mind, my first month there, having no experience at all. The second month we had our first quota. Our quota was 2, and I remember I sold 5 that month. So I was over 200% of the quota. The reason it was so high is because I sold to one dental office that actually had 3 locations. Their total revenue was like 2 to 3 million per year. Because they had such a high revenue and we get residuals from the terminal payments, my total payout from that over 2 years from the residuals would have been close to like 10K just from one sale, which is insane. Unfortunately, they ended up canceling the terminal that they had initially. They were being charged 7% per transaction, and I told them we could get it down to 2%. So essentially they're saving 5% on $2 to $3 million per year, which is a huge number. It was just that 5% that we're saving them was like almost $100,000 per year, just money that they're essentially tossing away. I even have a message because I was so stoked that I sold to them. I sent to my friend, but they ended up canceling. There was one feature because they're an ortho dental office that we couldn't meet. So their recurring payments, because ortho is usually typically way more expensive than just dental cleanings and stuff like that, we didn't have that one feature, so they ended up canceling. So the $2 to $3 million deal was just lost. I went from selling 5 that month to selling 2. I still hit the quota at 2, but it was definitely a roller coaster of emotions because it was a super high and then a super low because I couldn't close it. They ended up canceling. Fourth month was pretty much the same. I had a quota of 2 because there's a ramp up period as a new hire. So I hit that quota, and then the 5th month in August is when I quit. I think I quit on the 1st or 2nd week. I was having a lot of great demos, but the problem is that we were never selling to the decision makers, which is oftentimes the dentist. It's really hard because you have to essentially sell it to the office manager, and then the office manager has to sell it to the dentist because dentists are extremely busy. They don't have time for a 30-minute meeting. And also keep in mind that these dental offices are getting spammed by people like us and hundreds of other companies just trying to sell them something. A lot of times it's wasting their time. A lot of the demos ended off with, yeah, the office manager, they're like, yeah, this is so awesome. This is gonna help us so much. This is gonna save me so much time. They pitch it to the dentist, and then the deal kind of just falls off. That mixed with a lot of other things. I go into more detail about it of why I quit the 6-figure job, but everything at the same time, I just didn't think that I was probably the right fit for this job. I am by no means the best salesman at the world. Cell phones are easy, but business to business is a lot harder, and I just ended up quitting. I technically was never making 6 figures at that job, but it was still a 6-figure job. At least the cool thing is that the dental offices that I did sell to, I'm actually still getting residuals to this day 4 months after I quit. So that's pretty cool. So I'm still getting paid from that job, but now I'm just moving forward. Everyone there was super friendly. They were all willing to help. They had group meetings. People were always reaching out, asking if I needed help. It was a fantastic work environment. It just wasn't for me at the end of the day. I just wanted to give a little bit more detail about that 6-figure job because it was definitely an interesting experience for me that I'll never forget. And yeah, I hope that you guys liked the video, and have a good one.